What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to get another trade recap done for today. Today is August the 13th for 2026, and today's price action was pretty good, right? And I think today was a very important lesson on waiting for continuations and not forcing yourself into trades, right? So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's first go into the Discord. Obviously today was definitely a day where I was wrong. I don't think I have Discord even pulled up. I don't. So this was one of the days where I was wrong my plan. So I posted this in the Discord. Let's see. So here's a Discord. I posted in my channel that I was looking for lower prices if we kind of broke out of the stall or the consolidation that we had on Monday's high. So I'll explain that more in a bit. We had a low week put in. We had a possible low week put in on Tuesday, right? That's what I called that out too, right? All this, you're seeing me doing all this live, right, at prices printing. None of this is hindsight. But we had a low that I called out on Tuesday and Wednesday. Basically, I called that out. And I was like, this could be low week. This could be a low that we're willing to trade from. And obviously yesterday, that was the basis of my trades, right? If you watched yesterday's trade recap, the basis of my trades were that we had this low intact. So I was bullish. And obviously intraday aligned with that, so I took 2 losses yesterday. So yeah, so obviously this was a low. However, we were coming towards Monday's high, which is a key level, right? We're forming a new high of week, right? We had Monday as high of week. However, it got disrespected, right? Monday was originally the high of week, right? And we traded short on Monday, right? On Monday we traded short from this high, right? Thinking that this high was going to stay intact, right? Which did happen, and we caught a winning trade on Monday, right? But then we had Wednesday/Tuesday forming that opposing low, right? So this could be the idea that we may not respect this high anymore, which does happen, right? However, once we do come into this high, we could see some reaction here, and that's what we do see here. So now we're going to go back into the actual charts, right? Can I show you what I see? So this was Monday's high, right? This is the Monday high I had marked out. This is Monday's low. Now this is the low I was talking about. I have it marked out in blue, where this is the low of the week so far, right? As you can see, the weekly candle, right, made up of so far the 4 daily candles, right? This is the lowest point we have on the weekly candle, right? We open high, right, create that high on Monday, right, that we traded short on Monday and Tuesday. We had that failed low, right? So we thought this low could have been the low of week, right? And then we could expand away from it. We had that invalidation, right? And then we re-engaged with this Monday's high as the protected high, right? So we were wrong about us maybe trading away from this low into this high, right? Or towards this high, right? Instead, we were wrong. We accepted that, and we reused this high as, the high that we should trade lower from. So this high made us bearish again, right? So then we traded lower, but then Tuesday once again gave us that low, which I called out as well. So coming into the day, I was like, okay, we do have some displacement lower, right? We had the displacement lower. We had the change in state delivery. So what I have marked in red is what could have been the high of week, right? So we could have had a consolidation week, right? Where, we kind of consolidate, right? That could have happened, right? Because we definitely had some consolidation, and we're just returning back into the range, right? We trade higher, we return back to the range, we chop, right? We trade lower, and then we're returning back into the range, right? For more of a choppy week. As you can see, these 3 daily candles are kind of all choppy, right? We're kind of like always coming back to the weekly open. So it could have fit the narrative where we had a more choppy week, right? And we should return back to the open, right? As you can see, we do have that change of state delivery off of Monday's high. So what I have in red here is the supposedly high week, right? Obviously this is no longer high week, but at the time this was high week. So I wanted to see this get respected, right? And this red line is the invalidation point. Obviously this gets invalidated once we trade through it, right? Very strong, aggressive expansionary candle through it, right? And obviously intraday wise, it did line up actually. We had manipulation above midnight opening price. We had the change in state delivery here, right? So overall, we could have been bearish, right? But this is where your invalidations really save you, right? Because initially, if you're bearish, right, which I was bearish, right, initially if you're bearish, this would have saved you, right, because at 9:30 we take out this high, right? And then we take out this high, right? So once these two highs get taken out, one, it means that intraday we're no longer bullish, we're no longer bearish. So we either have to wait for realignment or an invalidation of our daily bias here, which is up here, right? So as you can see, we take out this high, right? So now we have taken out the supposed high week that should have been protected. If we're going to move lower, this high should not come back into it, right? So far we were pretty choppy over in the midnight section overnight. So I was expecting 930 to give us a decent move lower if this high was going to be protected. Obviously it didn't. So we had these invalidation points set. Guess what? They got hit. So, but at this point, we have to reassess, right? After this invalidation gets hit, right, we have to reassess. Now, what do we reassess for? So either one, we see if price is willing to, maybe give us a new high week or a new protected high, or is price more likely to respect an old protected low, right? So we have to reassess. So when we do reassess, right, we had, remember this Wednesday low, right? We talked about this. This Tuesday low, we talked about this, right? We were like, okay, either price is willing to, trade through this high, maybe give us, some sort of reversal, right? Maybe it trades to this high, sweeps it, comes back down, trades lower, right? That could always be something that happens. Or we are still respecting this low and we expand higher, right? So obviously today, given the signatures, right, it was a straight bullish run, right? And why is that? Is because one, we also had an equal manipulation of below midnight opening price. So you can see we expand here, right? We have midnight opening price, we trade lower, right? This is where I set my daily power of 3 invalidation point. And as you can see, 15-minute change in state delivery, right? So at the time, I did not see this as a valid change in state delivery because I was bearish. But since, we took out this high and this high, right, I would be bullish, right? Because the next thing that we're probably going to do is respect this low. So now we have a weekly power of 3 idea, right, off of this low, and then we have a daily power of 3 idea off of this low, right? And then we also have 930 as well. 930, as you can see, as 930 runs, right, we're looking for a 930 Judas swing if I was bearish, right? We never get that until, and obviously I'm not taking this short because we have hit the validation point. So at this point I'm bullish, right? I'm no longer bearish. So we have this change in state delivery, right? So now we have 3 protected lows, right? We have that weekly all the way down here. We have this daily, now we have 930. So I'm looking for 10 o'clock to give me a retracement opportunity, right? There were some opportunities in here that you could have taken. But for me, I waited for 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock opens low into this fair value gap, right? Whatever key level you want to use, whatever, I don't care. Change in state delivery, I get a pretty nice fill right as price comes back down. Put my stop at this low, sit through a little bit of drawdown, go break even at 1.5 risk to reward, and then I take my full position off at 2R, which is really nice. So overall, the framework was an invalidation framework with a pre-existing framework. So overall, pretty happy on how today went, right? We recognized, okay, we had an idea that we were bearish, right? We set the invalidation points. We realized that the invalidation points got hit, which meant that obviously my bearish idea was no longer valid, right? We reassessed, right? We reassessed the situation. We looked back on what price did, right? So we looked at price. We saw that Tuesday made it low. We invalidated the bearish idea, so we're most likely bullish. So where are we going to be bullish from? This low, right? And then we also had that midnight power of 3 low, and we also had 930, and then we're taking the continuation at 10, right? So overall, that's basically it for today. The framework was very, very nice for the day. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time with another video. So once again, hopefully you guys have a great day. I had a pretty good day too. I went out, had some fun. But other than that, see you guys next time. Peace.